Morning, good afternoon, good evening. Kevin Lopez today from Personal Tutors. Hello friends, I've been giving out numerous briefs, summaries, explanations about the English literature from class 6th to the 12th standard. Today we'll be looking at a poem known as Ozymandias. The poet is Percy Bysshe Shelley. To be precise, Percy Bysshe depicts this poem on a notion of a traveler. The poem goes as, I met a traveler from an antique land who said two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in a desert near them on the sand. Half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sheer of cold command. Ozymandias was an ancient king. The poem depicts his nature, his attitude, his tyranny, his role towards his citizens, and many much things. It's a sonnet. A sonnet has an octave and a centent. Usually, octave and centent in a sonnet are part of the 8 lines and the 6 lines that depict a perfect sonnet. The first 8 lines giving out the theme of the poem, giving out the nature, the cause, and the next 6 lines ironically, critically explains the meaning in today's life. Thus, Ozymandias, a king by far, was a boisterous king. He did not respect the other kings. He did not generate much awareness about the citizens and was a tyrannical fellow. A few lines in the poem, like the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed, is actually a message given out to everyone else by the king that the person who built this statue was actually not mocking sincerely, yet the king was feeding them. This means that the statue was made at the order of the king with a subtle smile and a huge growth, and he headed the remaining kings in the nearby kingdoms as well as his own. He led out a life of a perfect contour, the riches, the valor. Now comes the secondary part of the poem. The poet here depicts that even though Ozymandias was a king of great valor and great pomp and show and boisterous riches, yet his statue today stands headless and torsoless. It's just the 2 legs that are standing and the head has fallen down, half sunk in the sand with just a subtle smile. That's it. Friends, the poet depicts here that nothing in this world remains for long. Not even the statue. Leave away the life. May Ozymandias had been a king of great joy and show. Today, his statue lies in shambles, shattered, headless. The poet depicts that no matter how rich, how strong, how powerful any king may be, one day the truth would be that he would eventually fade out, not just die. Friends, fade out from the world. So is the statue doing that, being beaten by the sand, brushed upon, fading out. Thus, the poem depicts the crude reality of life that at the end it's nothing but just the death that even the king had to face. A few questions and answers that I would discuss. The first question is, write a letter to your friend about the sight you saw and your impression on it. As a letter, it would be a formal notion, not a business kind of letter. It would be a normal letter written to your friend depicting the journey. You can start as dear or hello or any other thing, because respected and truly words are used in the official communications usually. You can just start it with dear A, B, C. Like for instance, I would say, dear Kevin, I went to this place today. It's an ancient desert site. I just saw two legs standing without a torso, and nearby was a head fallen, being bashed by grains of sand, being bashed by the nature, washed away. Clearly, the journey of time was evident at the statue and the head. I saw the barrenness around, and I wondered about the unique beauty that the place would be carrying in the ancient times. Looking at the size of the statue, yes, I could imagine that it would have been a great one. Still, ironically, what hit me today was the truth of being faded away from the face of the world, no matter how rich, how powerful you be. The sight that I saw today leaves a mark that even though Ozymandias was a great king, yet today he would reconcile himself as a puny fellow, a tiny creature at the earth. Now, the sculpture was able to understand Ozymandias. There are four options. The best option would be expression, because he had depicted that subtle lip-smacked smile that usually powerful people possess. The poem throws light on the dash nature of Ozymandias. Obviously, if we study the poem, we can see that the words that Ozymandias uses are words like I, the king of kings, and the head of all, and I feed their stomach, sort of things. This clearly depicts the boastful nature of Ozymandias. The expression on the face of the statue is, there are four options. The best option suited would be contempt. The king felt contempted with the power, the reign, the glory that he possessed in himself. The poem is set in definitely it's a desert. And look on my works, ye mighty in despair. Who is Ozymandias referring to when he speaks ye mighty? Why should they despair? Ozymandias here refers to all the other rulers in his nearby kingdom, asks them to review his work and get into despair so that they may go ahead and get scared of the power that King Ozymandias possessed at the moment. What message is conveyed through this poem? Beautifully, Percy here explains that no matter you become rich, you become powerful, you become the king of the kings, you may be revered as a god by a citizen, one harsh truth should be remembered all your life is that we are living a life that isn't everlasting. All the great kings today are gone from the earth. You cannot just be boastful for all your life. You cannot be remembered for the remaining generations to come. Thus, we need to remember this truth given out in this poem. What is your impression of Ozymandias as a king? Wow, that's a good question, Looking at the poem's crux, looking at the poem's summary, we definitely would be thinking that Ozymandias was a powerful king, yet below the line we can find him overlooking the care, the nature, the choices of his citizens. He wasn't ever worried about anything related to his citizens. Rather, he was looking forward to expand his reign and just to let the other kings run away in despair and let them know that he was the most powerful king around. So thus giving an impression of a person being boisterous and lustrous of fake bravery, thus making him a king least revered by the citizens. Nothing beside remains. What does the narrator mean when he says these words? Obviously, nothing beside remains is a simple notion of this life that we are living would not remain for so long. Thus, we need to remember the fact, most importantly. Bring out the irony in the poem. The irony in the poem is, yet being a powerful king, Ozymandias realizes the force of the nature decades later or centuries later after his death. No matter he would be giving the worst punishment to the tyrants, he would have been of immense power, he would have been giving out the worst punishments to people around, he would have been a bitter warrior to be fought, he would have been into great battles. Yet the irony is this, that if Ozymandias definitely would have arrived today and saw his own statue in shambles, he would have held his head down in shame. Being a big ruler, today, you're nothing but ruined in shambles, sand being rubbing upon your face, seems a feeling of despair and sadness as well. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Why does Ozymandias refer himself to as King of Kings? Ozymandias considered himself to be the most powerful ruler around, thus he called himself King of Kings. The hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. Whose hands and whose heart has the poet referred to? Obviously the hands of the sculptor who have gone ahead and carved the statue, and the heart that fed is the reality of the king feeding the sculptures. Definitely. Now identify and rewrite the poems. In this, the narrator starts the poem with an introduction. So it's a sonnet. I would suggest that you can go through the poem and then answer it on your own words. So this was a brief about the poem Ozymandias. If you have any questions, you can definitely comment below and we would reply it back. If you want to know something about personal tutors, just click on the button about us, subscribe us as well. You may get a few notions as well. If you need information about more subjects or anything else, you can request it online. We can provide it in a pen drive as well. Thank you once again. I'm Kevin Lopez from Personal Tutors. See you in next sessions.